Hello, everybody. My name is Brad Wolf, and I'm Reimagine's Executive Director.
Now, I'm Corey Kennard, and I'm Reimagine's board chair.
And we are joined today by over 100 co-hosts for this event. If you're just joining us, welcome. And please, let's get that chat going. If you want to share right now as we're getting set up, especially you co-hosts out there, uh, maybe introduce yourself in the chat, where you're calling in from, and your wishes for the space tonight, what you're hoping for here. And with that, I like to say that on this Giving Tuesday, we gather for a special and significant event, the Gathering of Grief. This is Reimagine's 100th virtual candlelight vigil. And for us, this occasion is more than a milestone. It's a reflection of what we stand for as a community. We aim to ensure, regardless of background, that everyone has access to free and engaging community support in the face of loss, adversity, and mortality. These vigils began as a response to a need we saw: spaces to openly acknowledge and share our collective grief, creating a sacred pause to be with rather than brush over what is happening around us and in us, with love in our hearts. As we come together for this 100th vigil in these last couple years, it is a powerful reminder that now more than ever, people need access to these types of experiences. On this occasion, we owe immense gratitude to the over 100 organizations and leaders who have joined us in bringing the Gathering of Grief to life. Your unwavering commitment to helping people navigate grief and loss illuminates the strength found in community solidarity. Thank you for doing this with us and for being here and co-creating this experience. And with everything happening right now globally, on top of what we each are experiencing personally, we must rise to meet these times in a new way. It starts with each of us and how we show up both for ourselves and for each other.
Thank you, Brad, for just opening us up in such a powerful way with those words. And I want to just once again welcome everybody to this 100th vigil. I think that this is just an occasion where we don't want to sit around and just say that we've reached a particular number or milestone, but we see every vigil as a unique opportunity and experience for everyone to share in community as we express grief together and opportunities to grow. And so here at Reimagine, we create opportunities and spaces and places where people can talk openly and freely about living and dying, about death and loss, about grief and sorrow, and also about joy. You see, we notice over and over that when those often taboo topics are allowed to breathe, people feel more connected to themselves and each other, and we build community in the process. There are so many kinds of losses we all know: loss of life, loss of love, loss of home, and even a loss of hope. But we are here for you for all of that. We know that loss can be both personal and very private, and also global and collective. And today we are aware that this is a period and a time in history of great turmoil, of fear, of anguish. And we recognize that this is a highly politicized moment in history. We recognize that there are many different views on all that is unfolding. And we recognize that both what we say as well as what we don't say can have meaning and may be difficult for some. We encourage everyone, however, on this call to recognize that we have all come here today with some kind of pain in our hearts. And our hope is to simply provide a safe community in which we honor the mission of Reimagine and to help people of all backgrounds face loss, adversity, and mortality to create a more compassionate world.
Thank you so much, Corey, and thank you everyone who is here this evening for being part of the inaugural gathering of grief. Now, a little housekeeping before we begin, just so everyone is comfortable and set up with the technology that we're using to connect all of us. The bottom left of your screen, there is a mute button. You're going to be muted unless you're speaking. That means we have over 52 poets you're going to meet soon who are going to be unmuting to speak. And all of you are going to have the opportunity in the last half hour of our 90-minute session to join a breakout room and have your voices heard in this space. So you'll be unmuting during that moment. Otherwise, the mute is on. Now, we really encourage you to turn your cameras on for this event. You can click that button. It's so nice to see faces in a world where we are using technology. We might as well make it as human as possible. Now, if for some reason you can't turn your camera on, that's okay. The chat. We use the chat for technical questions. So if anything comes up for you during this experience and you would like to ask, you can find a Reimagine member in the chat and ask, and someone will get back to you promptly with a response to help you navigate this space. But we're significantly going to be using the chat for the honor ceremony, the honor and intention, the emotion and honor ceremony, which we're going to be inviting all of you to participate in later on in this vigil. Now, this one's very important. For closed captioning, if you would like to see the words streaming across the space, if for some reason you're hard of hearing, and you just like to read, it's a great option to click that button and you'll see a transcript navigating across the screen. And that really does it, other than what is in the center of this image here, a candle. This is the perfect time for you, if you don't already have one, to go grab a candle, because in a couple minutes we are going to be lighting our candles together to kick off the ceremony. Now, I think it's also important, given where we are as a world, what this event is about, to reiterate for those of you what kind of space this is, just to make sure we are all aligned with the intentions for what we hope to do and be together. This is a grieving space. Despite our varied backgrounds and beliefs, we can unite in sorrow. This is a compassionate space. Our compass points towards mourning loss and to widening our hearts with love. This is a brave space. In a time where fear is rampant, simply showing up here with and for others tonight from diverse walks of life, this is an act of courage. And also, as Corey mentioned, this is an imperfect space. Acknowledging our limitations, we approach with humility, knowing that our words might fall short. And Corey, would you mind reading what this space is not? If you want to unmute.
You know, you told us all to mute, so we didn't know. This space is not a blaming space. For today is simply for being with ourselves and others amidst what's hard. It's not a political space. While every action and inaction can be viewed through the lens of politics, our intention is to step beyond those boundaries and be apolitical. This is not a religious space. While religion provides solace for many, our gathering remains neutral, respecting all faiths and people without faith. And then this is not a solution space. Our gathering is about bearing witness to our collective pain, not seeking immediate remedies, but rather sitting with them together.
Thank you, Corey. And if those principles felt good to you, why don't you share in the chat or put a thumbs up that you are on board with these principles and are ready to proceed to our ceremony and candle lighting. And so with that, I'm going to stop the, oh, sorry, excuse me, one thing. Before we get to the candle lighting, I wanted to just make sure everyone felt aware of what we're doing here tonight. So first of all, we opened with music by Phoenix Song, and we're going to introduce Phoenix soon. We have a beautiful altar that you're going to be seeing throughout this occasion, made by Shaye Lucero, and you'll meet Shaye later as well. And thank you so much, Shaye and Phoenix, for that beautiful opening. Corey, thank you for being part of this welcome. We're about to move into the candle lighting and kicking off the ceremony. We're going to hear reflections from 3 incredible guests, each of whom has faced or faces or deals with trauma, collective pain, or has had an experience of pain that we're going to ask for their insights and their lived experience to help us open our hearts. We're going to move toward a communal poem reading. This is going to be something you've never seen before, nor have we. Then an emotion and honor ceremony where you'll all have a chance in the chat to share what you're feeling and who you're honoring. And then finally, the candle extinguishing. We'll share a couple more details. And then for those of you who wish, we hope all of you stay for breakouts where we have an opportunity to connect with one another and share more deeply what's come up for us and more about what it is we're feeling, what we're here honoring, and why the space is something that has brought you forth in community this evening. And then a final goodbye. All right. So now with that, I am going to stop the share for 1 second, and I'm going to grab my candle. I'm going to look out at everyone there. Do you all have candles? Let's see if you have a candle handy. All right. So let us light our candles. Well, I see some clever options. I see the cell phone version of the candle. I don't know if you saw that, but there was an explosion. That was significant. I've never seen that before. It must mean something. That was wild. Oh, I think it's the microphone. It's interacting with my mic and creating some kind of special light this evening. So we're going to light our candles here. And then I'm going to turn back on the screen. And I want to invite my colleagues, Misha, Zubin, and Dara, to each read this candle lighting blessing. And all of you out there holding our candles, I invite each of you to read along with Misha, Zubin, and Dara, wherever you are, out loud, so we can feel this blessing.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
And now I'm going to stop the share, and I want everyone out there to hold up your candles and find somebody else in this space You can hover over someone's face and you can see their name, especially if you go into gallery mode on the top right. You can switch your view. In the small boxes, you'll see tons of small boxes, and find one person. Just find one person and have that person represent for you all of humanity. But just connect with that one person, and for 20 seconds or so, let's just send in our hearts some kindness, some love, some intention toward that one person on behalf of all people. I'm going to find Marilyn Bobbio. All right, thank you, everybody. Now we can put our candles down with those intentions set for one person and for all of us thereby. It is my pleasure now to really help bring all of our voices into this space by introducing Phoenix Song. Phoenix is a queer, non-binary performer, teacher, coach, writer, expressive arts facilitator, and sound healer. They were featured in San Francisco Magazine's Best of the Bay. Phoenix facilitates grief rituals, ancestral healing workshops, and trainings. They have performed and taught at places from SF Jazz to Stanford to UC Santa Cruz. And Phoenix also offers a monthly sound bath at the gorgeous Grace Cathedral in San Francisco with their band Fractals of Sound, and leads theta drum journeys and sound baths around the Bay Area. They have appeared frequently at Reimagine festivals, vigils, and other virtual events. And I want to turn it over to Phoenix now to help us all connect to our own voice.
Thank you so much, Brad, and thank you all for being here. As I have been landing myself in this gathering, I am remembering the words of Rabbi Menachem Mendel, who said, "There is nothing more whole than a broken heart." And in really feeling that and feeling my broken heart and our broken hearts, and how when they are broken, we have the ability to send love and compassion and ease and peace and joy through those cracks. So I wanted to just share a sounding practice for us all to do. There's a way that grief can live in the body and kind of lodge in there, making us grow smaller. And so with a little bit of movement and a little bit of sounding, we will be able to release some of the energy and send it out with good intention. So I invite you to place your hands on your heart. And we're going to make an ah together. And this first ah is sending loving kindness and compassion to yourself. So just feeling your hands on your heart, taking a deep inhale. Ah. Sending this awe of loving kindness and compassion to everyone on this call. And then for this third one, to the whole world, to all beings everywhere, sending and receiving loving kindness and compassion. Taking a deep inhale. And just feeling what this vibration of loving kindness and compassion feels like in your body. And sometimes it's hard to access these states. We might feel numb, we might feel rage. So whatever your experience is, just inviting in and welcoming. And now we'll take a moment and just wishing, may I be safe from harm, both inner and outer. So taking an ah of wishing safety and protection, a deep inhale. And seeing everyone's faces, may you be safe from harm, both inner and outer. and taking your hand and just sending this energy and receiving it back from everyone on this call. And then as we open our arms wide, sending the energy out of our hearts and bringing back this energy to the whole world, to all beings, may we all be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. And just feeling what this vibration, this intention of safety and protection is like in your body, in our collective body. And then for this last may I be happy, may I be easeful. So wishing this intention of joy and ease to yourself, taking a deep inhale. And taking a look at this screen and wishing for everybody on this call, may you be filled with joy and ease and receiving everyone else's well wishes of their ahs back to you at the same time. Taking a deep inhale. And for this last sending out, may all beings live with joy and experience ease and feeling everyone's well wishes back for you for happiness and for peace. Taking a deep inhale, sending it out from your heart, receiving it back. And just taking a moment to feel these sound vibrations in your body, what these intentions of loving kindness, of compassion, of safety and protection, of joy and ease, what this feels like in your body, what we just sent out through our breath throughout the whole universe. And a deep bow of gratitude for each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phoenix. I would love it if everyone in the chat could share some gratitude for yourselves, for this community, and for Phoenix for leading us through that powerful reconnection with our own voices in this space. Thank you so much, Phoenix. And now I want to bring some more voices into this space. This evening, as we are thinking about collective pain and all that is disconnected from love, we felt it was important to hear from diverse voices that could shed some light based on personal experience so we can learn what it's like for some other humans to process what is hard. And so we invited 3 speakers whose stories, in some ways, some of them are feel like oceans, and some you may see as rivers of pain. But just know that all of us, this expression really speaks to me, that we can drown in an ocean and we can drown in 3 inches of water. But all this water connects. And so to bring some humanity, some voice to this experience of what we're all experiencing, I want to first bring to our midst in conversation Leon Ford. My dear friend Leon is an author, a speaker, an activist, a mental health ambassador, and a civic leader. He's also a Reimagine board member. His knowledge of social disparities and injustice comes from personal experience. When Leon was 19 years old, his life drastically changed when the Pittsburgh police unjustly shot him 5 times at a traffic stop. The horrific case of mistaken identity has left him physically paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair. Still, Leon hasn't allowed his circumstances to deter him from positively impacting his community and really our world. Through mentorship, he has sparked a movement cultivating leaders, organizers, and social entrepreneurs by empowering them to use their voices, platforms, and resources to evoke change and reshape their communities for generations to come. It's my privilege to say, hello, Leon. It is so good to see you.
Hey, what's up, bro? It's a pleasure to be here and to share space with you and our Reimagine family, man.
Hey, thank you, Leon. And this evening, I want to ask you something specific, given why we're here. So, as I just mentioned, what you've experienced feels for some, like an ocean of pain and hurt. Now, we know that for some people, after something hard, we end up drowning for eternity. It seems like, I know you've had the same human experiences as we all have, the ups and the downs, but in some ways, you haven't remained stuck. You've experienced growth in the newness of possibility through your spirit, your love, your activism. I'm wondering, what does it take to process the hard parts of life in healthy and expansive ways in your experience? Tell us about how you've been able to navigate your journey.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you, Brad. I'm reminded in this moment of some of my toughest moments where I struggle with depression, shame, guilt, and many other negative emotions. And I think, and I would say, it was very important for me to feel those feelings fully and also surround myself with family and community. In many ways, what I experienced almost hardened my heart. And I share stories about how, I woke up, when I woke up in the hospital, I've read a bunch of, comments on news articles, and these were extremely racist comments. And, the fact that I was shot by a police officer, the media framed it as Black teen shot by a white officer. Then I read these, racist comments. And, there was a moment in the hospital where I told myself I not only hated all police officers, but I hated all white people. However, my doctors and my nurses, they were so good to me. And so I told myself I hated all white people but them. And it was their goodness along with the goodness and the love from my 6th grade teacher, Miss Shank, who would come visit me. And, this love from community, the love from my family created space that sheltered me from allowing my heart to become hardened.
Thank you, Leon. And, I'd like to follow up with that by asking you, now in the world, when we see, or when you've seen collective pain, things you turn on the news and see things that affect you, or that, there's grief and there's pain. How do you, given your own experience, how do you metabolize or handle that?
Yeah, I would say I handle it with a level of grace and compassion. It's interesting because years ago, when I had settled my case with the city of Pittsburgh, I remember our mayor at the time, Bill Peduto, he had made a comment and he said, now, Leon Ford, his family, and the officers and their families finally get a chance, an opportunity to heal. In that moment, I was extremely upset, and I went on a rant on Facebook Because to me, I thought that was a false equivalency. So how could this mayor say, these officers deserve to heal after, this officer shot me and everything I experienced? Well, years later, I built relationships with, Mayor Bill Peduto, the chief of police, who is now the co-founder of my organization, the Here Foundation, which Rabbi Ron Simons is a board member of. I was able to meet the officer who shot me. And what I realized is that he too experienced a tremendous amount of pain and trauma and had just begun his healing journey. And so as I look at the media, as I look at many issues that we're faced with throughout the world, I don't view these issues through one lens, through one side versus another side. I'm able to have deep love, deep compassion, and understanding for the collective trauma that we share and how we respond to trauma. Had I been met with more, critique and ridicule, and if my doctors were mean to me, if my sixth grade teacher was mean to me, my heart could have potentially became hardened, and the decisions I would make would have been much different. I had thoughts of retaliation. I had a bunch of negative thoughts, but it was that love, it was the compassion, it was the grace that these people and community gave to me, that helped shape in my heart and helped me make decisions that were more rooted in love and compassion.
Thank you, Liana. That just emphasizes, I think, as we're in community this evening, those micro actions that you experienced from, looking back to your sixth grade teacher and thinking about how that brought forward for you, uh, inspired your own ability to respond to your situation and to the situations that befall us. And so, what happens if we don't have that sixth grade teacher, as you mentioned? What happens if we aren't nice to our neighbor? We don't smile at the person next door. So I think here in this community that really is something we can all do together, collectively, moving on from this call. And thank you, Leon, for inspiring us. I want to bring you back in a minute, but now I want to introduce our next guest, Hannah Yunus. Now, Hannah, as a young Muslim woman living in the United States through 9/11, her life was deeply affected by her Muslim faith and also the Islamophobia and racism within this country. Her work now aims to not only help Muslims, but to create interfaith connections and dialogue. She went on to serve for 5 years as the education coordinator at the Al Dulles Area Muslim Society Center, where she developed and maintained programming that emphasized ways youth could practice and live simultaneously as both Muslims and as Americans. She also worked with the International Interfaith Peace Corps, where she organized international conferences focused on empowering imams and religious leaders to counter violent extremism through promoting interreligious dialogue. More recently, Hannah has been working as a Muslim community coordinator and a chaplain at Shenandoah University in Virginia. She is the school's first clergy person in its 150-year history who does not identify as Christian. There, she addresses the spiritual care and needs of students of all faith and no faith, creating a safe and understanding space where they can practice their beliefs and discuss their concerns. And now, additionally, she coaches people using equine therapy. For those of you who are unfamiliar, this is a treatment method that uses the connection between people and horses to enhance physical or emotional healing. It's my pleasure to welcome you, Hannah, to our space this evening.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you all.
And I'd love you to share, with 9/11 as a backdrop in your own life, what has been your personal experience as a Muslim American and as a Muslim American woman in this country? How has that dovetailed with your decision to pursue chaplaincy and this interfaith work? And if there's any specific experience or anecdote that might bring to life for us some of that decision.
Yeah, certainly. So really it's my track into chaplaincy and the interfaith work has very much been defined by the experience of 9/11. And while there's some aspects to my own experience that are unique, it's something that so many Muslims have experienced, of kind of the backlash that came from it. Um, a lot of, I work with college students, a lot of them were not born when 9/11 happened. I had the experience of living a significant portion of life before that happened, and having the pre 9/11 era and then the post 9/11 era as a Muslim American. And there was definitely a distinction there. I think my own experience of a very traumatic Islamophobic event that took place at a pivotal point in my life has certainly moved me into the space of interfaith dialogue and in chaplaincy, partially in that there needs to be an understanding amongst us as human beings in order to have that level of respect of our differences. And so I feel that, particularly when I work with young people in the area of interfaith dialogue, or anyone else, that it is getting to know each other through a hike or through a game or through something that is relaxing, and you just get to know who we are as human beings, and then to progress from there. But with the chaplaincy, the impact that I kind of suffered through my journey with grief and with loss as a result of what I experienced from Islamophobic attacks is something that really solidified my desire to move into an area of helping others. And so I pursued a degree in social work because I felt that I didn't want anybody who was around me, anybody who crossed paths with me, to feel like they were experiencing anything alone. I just wanted to make sure that anyone who crossed my path knew that they weren't alone in whatever they were facing. And part of that was because my own experience was very isolating. It was unique, and it was something that because of the tension at the time wasn't something that I could necessarily discuss outside of the Muslim community. And yet we had such a challenge of balancing the grief that we faced as Americans, as everybody did with the events of 9/11, but on top of that, the grief and the fear that we had of the backlash. And so there was little space to talk about what I was experiencing. And so I felt very strongly that I wanted to create space for anybody who needed it from me. But also, if it was just that we crossed paths in the grocery store, I wanted to be able to express that you're not alone. Maybe I can't be the one to take care of you, or I can't be the one to support you, but that there are others who are experiencing something in a way that they may be able to be in partnership with you as you go through that journey. And so it very much has impacted my path in life and my path in supporting others.
Sorry, I'm wondering, and if the answer could be no, and that's totally okay. If you're willing to share the experience the significant experience that you're naming that catapulted you in this new direction.
Yeah. So I'll just say, there was a lot of backlash. There was a lot of kind of blaming in terms of where responsibility was for everything that happened, and a lot of misguided actions as a result of it. There was so much ignorance out of the event, and there was so much pain for everybody. And and so myself, I experienced an aspect of that backlash in a way that compromised all the sense of security that I had. definitely a transgression into the spaces that I was supposed to be able to feel safe. And so that really created a loss of sense of security. And I will say, as I was mentioning with the challenge that we had as a collective community of grieving the events, as well as for the Muslim community to kind of face the backlash in return, there was questions about my sense of identity as a whole, being born in America and raised in America, and people kind of constantly pushing on the go back home or wherever you came from. So it stirred up a tremendous loss of that sense of identity, of that sense of security, and just even opportunity and relationships that came out of that, friends who distanced themselves from me for various reasons, and just opportunity that's lost when you're in the middle of grief.
Thank you so much for being willing to share that, and for letting that pain inspire all the beautiful work within you that you're doing now to support young people and people across different backgrounds and divides to be more human and be more conscious of one another and of ourselves. Just last question before I bring on our third and final guest. I'm curious about the equine therapy, and if as we think about collective trauma and we think about nature and life, what is a horse taught
Yeah,
you
so I mean that's a
about?
question I definitely get a lot. I will say that after experiencing what I had experienced, it was not months or weeks or a short term of grief. For me, it was deep, and I struggled through that. I don't know if you all know, but just the average time between when somebody experiences some symptoms of a mental illness to where they and that can be anything, but compounded grief is one of those, to where they get help. The average time in America is 11 years. I didn't know that until more recently, but I had actually experienced this grief for nearly a decade. It was, emotions, as I say in our culture, emotions is kind of the 8-letter swear word. You just don't say it. You don't talk about your feelings. And so I was very much alone in that. And I couldn't figure out how to be able to articulate what was happening. But I later just learned that through, that experience of grief, sometimes we can't, or trauma, we can't verbalize what is happening. And so I had tried various methods to move past the grief, to move through it. And I always tell people, you've got to walk through it because it will catch up with you. You can't go around it. But I couldn't do that myself because I couldn't verbalize it. And I kind of got to the point where I was just like, I need to find something that creates joy for myself. And I've always loved horses. And so I started working with them just as volunteering. And through that experience is how I learned how incredibly healing they are. They really require you. Anybody who has animals knows that it's kind of a balance between vulnerability and a little bit of power. And horses, being as large as they are, you really do have to have that inner strength and inner centeredness, but you do also have to be vulnerable. And so as I was trying to navigate balancing these emotions and these feelings in order to connect with the horses, I finally was able to balance myself in a way that I could start to articulate the experience that I had had. And through that journey of my own, and through finally finding healing through animals, is where I decided to go and get the training. I'm personally a person of faith. I mean, obviously, I talked about that a little bit, but I wholeheartedly believe that when God blesses you with something, that you share it with others. And so to me, to have this relief and this release from the grief and the pressure, that I wanted to be able to turn that around and give it as a space to others. And so, that's kind of what I did. And then further, at the university, trying to help students who are coming in at 19 years old, take this mental health and alternatives therapy class so that they also know if psychotherapy doesn't work, that's okay. Maybe music works. Maybe dogs and cats work for you. Maybe it's horses. Maybe it's art. Maybe it's journaling, but that they have opportunities. And I would encourage anybody on here to also look at something beyond the norm, because what you're experiencing may not be normal, and look beyond the status quo, because you deserve that. And that's what I hope my work brings to others, is that they are worthy of that healing. And just because it's not through a traditional way, it doesn't mean that there's not hope in moving beyond it.
Thank you so much. That really speaks so poignantly to what this community is trying to be about. To say that yes, therapy is an important way we can process our pain, and yet there are so many avenues that we can turn toward nature, toward writing, toward the arts, toward service, towards spirituality. Um, it's all around us, and so thank you so much for bringing that to bear this evening. Now I'd like to, and we'll hear from you again in a second, but I want to now bring to the space Rabbi Ron Simons. Ron is the founding director of the Loving Kindness and Civic Engagement at the Jewish Community Center of Greater Pittsburgh, where he serves as Senior Director of Jewish Life. Dedicated to the long-held values of love your neighbor as yourself and do not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds, Ron and the JCC Center for Loving Kindness Community are committed to redefining neighbor from geographic term to a moral concept. I'm going to want to hear about that, Ron. Their mission was on full display when, on the horrific day of October 27th, 2018, a man killed 11 congregants at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, critically wounded 2 others, and injured 5 responding police officers. Given Ron's proximity and role in the community, he was a major responder in helping the victims' families, the Pittsburgh Jewish community, and the city of Pittsburgh as a whole to process that experience. Thank you for being here, Ron.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Hannah and Leon, for sharing your journeys and for being inspirations.
So I'd love to ask you, if you wouldn't mind sharing for us, what happened with you on the day of the shooting, your emotions, and what do you think now, through that experience, as you think more broadly, is most needed for yourself and your community in being able to process that over time?
Sure. So it was a really long day, and I'll say that because of the emotional strain of it, but also because day and night just didn't matter in those days. So I'm gonna take us over to October 29th. The shooting happened on a Saturday. On Monday, we began what we needed to do to bury our dead. And so as a member of the burial society, the Chevra Kadisha, I found myself in the back of the funeral home getting ready to join my team that was already doing the work of washing and purifying those who had died. And all of a sudden, I heard a knock on the door. Now, it was a rainy, dark night in Pittsburgh. It was 2 nights after the worst the most deadly anti-Semitic attack on this land. And I was all alone in the back of a funeral home. And I heard, and I was freaked out. Luckily, there was a funeral director there who I'd never met before, who was also freaked out. And she said to me, "Why don't you go open the door?" I said, "It's not my door, it's your door. You open it." So I stood behind her as she removed the alarm, which was the folding chair that was, wedged up into the doorknob. And when she removed that, then opened up the door into the night, we saw a little old woman waving 10 $100 bills at us. And she said to us, "This is for the married couple." And we said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "They need a proper burial. This is for the married couple." And we said, "What's your name?" She said, "No names." And we said, "Can we give you a hug?" And she said, "No hugs." And she just disappeared into the darkness. We closed the door. We re-engaged the alarm. security system. And there I was holding $1,000 in my hand for charity for a couple that had been married forever and now died together. And all that we could do was to embrace each other and cry. It was one of the most powerful moments of my life. And it was a real life lesson, not learned from a theology textbook or a novel, but from the experience of life at large, that even after immense darkness, sometimes there's kindness. Even after immense darkness, sometimes there's light. And in the midst of that sorrow, of that time, it just gave me a little bit of hope that it's going to be all right.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us and for being there. And when I say being there, happening to be there, but being there because of the work you've been doing throughout your life that set you up to respond the way that you were able to in that moment, and then ultimately over the last couple of years. And I'd love you to share this concept of being a neighbor, and as we think about collective trauma. I mean, we see it, we've experienced it, but we maybe don't know it fully in the same way you have until it's literally on our doorstep, and then it's right there. And there's so much pain in our personal lives, and you're a rabbi, so you see that as well, the individual pain and the collective pain. But what is this concept of neighbor, and what does it really mean?
So I'm going to take us back to the 1960s, to the March on Washington, when so many of our parents and grandparents, our ancestors, our spiritual guides of that generation said enough is enough, that civil rights matters. And just because I can walk into a room because of the color of my skin and someone else can't, doesn't mean that I'm going to continue to live my life in privilege. I'm going to stand up with everybody, right, and be a part of this struggle. And so it was on that day that, before they invited Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. to take the podium, where now his bronze footsteps are immortalized on the Lincoln Memorial, they invited his friend, Rabbi Joachim Prince of New Jersey, to take the podium, to be the last person before King spoke. And they invited him for two reasons. One is he was the chief rabbi of Berlin during the Holocaust. So he knew what it meant to not live in a community of neighbors. And the second was, they invited him because they knew that we needed to show the world that hate speech and hate legislation can lead to much, much more. And it was at that moment, on that sacred day, in that sacred spot, that he reminded the world that the Hebrew Bible insists that neighbor is not a geographic term. Neighbor is a moral concept. To love your neighbor as yourself is to understand that we have a shared humanity. To know that I am created in God's image is to know that you too are created in God's image, and that I have a responsibility to bring honor to that image. And so for us, as we're redefining the word neighbor from a geographic term to a moral concept, it means that we hold each other dear. And I'll even say that in these very tumultuous times that we're living now, even with our differences of opinions about what might be going on, what is going on in Israel and in Gaza and in other hotspots around the world. When pain comes, it doesn't make a difference what side of the border you're on or who you're connected to more. In the aftermath of the killing of the shooting of the 3 Palestinian students in Vermont, I picked up my phone and I texted the head of the Muslim community here in Pittsburgh to express my sorrow and to say maybe we should have another cup of coffee. The first one was a month ago when things started to happen. And that's what neighbor means, is that I care about you deeply. And when challenges face us, I'm not going to shy away from being in relationship with you.
Well, thank you, my good neighbor, Ron, and all of you neighbors in these little squares that we have committed ourselves to this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for those words and for really lighting the way on that path. I'd love to bring, I think we're having some challenges technically with the spotlighting right now. We've been trying to make sure you can see these speakers large, but I think someone might be unspotlighting. That's one of our hosts. We'd love to bring back Ron and Leon and Hannah for us just briefly on the screen together, if you can. I just have one question for each of you here, and maybe in just a couple sentences, so we can get on to this epic poem we're about to hear. But I want to know from each one of you, one at a time, why is it so important that we are here in community tonight to be with collective pain? And let's go. Leon, can you kick that off for us?
Yes, thank you. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we are experiencing collective pain. When you look at the news, when you look at, social media, the world just continues to take hit after hit. And I think it's very important for us as a community to take these steps, to lean in, to support one another, to hold space. I saw, I think it was Alexandria, who lost her mom yesterday. There's so many people experiencing sadness and grief. And so wherever there's, collective pain, we have to be very intentional about collective healing, because it's easy for us to prioritize our own pain and believe that we are the only ones experiencing this pain and trauma. But when we, understand and realize that so many other people are experiencing similar, things, different stories, but similar pain, we can have more compassion for one another, and we can hold space for one another and help one another heal.
Hannah?
I would really answer that with saying, because we're human. We live in a world, and that is particularly so for us here in the US, where that's very individualistic. I need to take care of myself. I need to do this by myself. I need to stand up and do that independently. And to some degree, those things are good, but you do not have to deal with grief or trauma alone. But I think because we kind of put that in our cultures, it's so important to break down that barrier and say, no, you don't have to do that alone, that we can stand up and we can do that together. We can walk that together.
Thank you, Hannah. Rabbi Ron.
I believe that the purpose of community is community. The purpose of community is community. And so even now, in my own personal grief over the death of my mother 2 months ago, as I am now going through my religious practice of saying memorial prayer, the Kaddish, every morning, I have to find 9 other people to make a quorum so that I can say those words in community, because the purpose of community is community.
Thank you so much to all of you incredible guests who have really blessed us with these words of lived experience and wisdom, and brought forth to us something I think we all need to hear from each of you. And collectively, your voices represent our voices in this moment. And so thank you, thank you, thank you for being here in this gathering of grief. And now with that, we're leading into our honor ceremony this evening. Our emotion and honor ceremony. And just to say that this experience, we thought we were going to have breakouts, but things are moving in its own circuitous direction this evening, and I'm so grateful for it. Didn't know what that would be like, but I found it exquisite and powerful, and more than I could have anticipated for us this evening. And so I ask you to see what unfolds now. But we do know some things are going to unfold, and we can be certain of those. And one of which is really the most important part, I feel, of this experience, and that is our sacred communal ritual now, our ceremony for emotion and for honoring. And for that, I want to bring in Shaye Lucero, born and raised on the reservations of the Acoma and Laguna Pueblos. It took Shaye 16 years from high school graduation to finish college. However, during that time, she was Miss Indian World in 1997, executive assistant for the All Indian Pueblo Council, and was the tribal liaison for Native Visions Arts and Communications. Upon graduating, Shaye became an entrepreneur with the purchase of Earth and Sky Floral Designs. Shaye was commissioned by the FBI to create the Native Warriors Wreath. She's been featured in floral industry magazines and has received honors in floral competitions in the United States and South Africa. Last year, she traveled to the United Nations in Geneva to advocate for Indigenous reproductive rights with the Changing Woman Initiative. This fall, she represented rural entrepreneurs in Washington, D.C. at meetings with policymakers, lawmakers, and members of the Biden-Harris administration. Shaye is also a knowledge keeper of medicinal plants and was featured speaker last December at Cultivating Justice, a Reimagine panel discussion on plant medicine, health, and liberation. And Shaye built this evening, has been co-creating and creating during this experience something for all of us. And she offers some words for us now.
Guatsi Hopa Shaye Lucero Ese Koekame Alchemista Trashka Hanu Edsena Washki Sada. Good evening, relatives. My name is Shaye Lucero. I come from the Pueblos of Acoma and Laguna. I am of the Roadrunner clan for my mother and a turkey child for my late father. It's been an honor to be able to create the altar for you and then to keep it in a sacred space. If you see the smoke that is swirling around, I've been burning a mixture of copal, flat cedar, rosemary that were grown by the children of the school where my kids go to, and sage. And it's been burning beautifully. And in Kurindismo medicine and in a lot of traditional communities, when there's a lot of smoke, it means that there's a lot of positivity in the air, and it's working really well to get rid of negativity. So while y'all were lighting the candle, I was virtually smudging everybody so that everybody would be here in a space that where they felt safe, where they felt loved, where they felt just surrounded by good things, good intentions. I also created, I don't know if you can see it, but I created a flower while we were working, everybody was talking. Yellow roses, 4 of them, in a stair-step fashion, because we start with childhood, we go through youth, adulthood, and then we leave as elders. Our people always say we go to the stars, so I put the eryngium in to act like the stars. There's other elements of various plants, including evergreen, which is a very sacred plant for our people. I also next to me is a small bowl of food, apples, some chocolate, a sour airhead from my brother who passed away many years ago, cheese for my dad because he could never have cheese when he was sick, when he was here. And then always there's water. We always make sure there's water for our people. So it's been lovely to have been able to create this space for you virtually, to be able to take care of it. And it's when you're Native American and you're told to take care of an altar in a sacred space, it's a huge blessing. So thank you to Reimagine for allowing me this honor, and may you all be returned blessings tenfold, 100-fold, infinity-fold for allowing all of us to gather here together. And given that this is a vigil for our collective pain, we're going to be moving into the emotion and honor ceremony. So when the music begins in a few seconds, we ask for you to share 2 things in the chat. What emotions are you feeling right now that you would like to share, or emotions that you want to let go of? And additionally, please share the name of anyone or anything you wish to honor in this space and a note about why. And I loved in the poem, somebody remembered their pets. Those are sacred to us. Those are our relatives that are in just a different form. And so please, at this time, I'll turn the floor back over to, I believe it's Phoenix, who will lead some music while everybody shares their emotions and the names of their loved ones.
everyone. Thank you on behalf of all of us, just gratitude for your vulnerability, for taking something as blank and meaningless as a chat and filling it up with so much love and pain and humanity. Thank you to Shia for such a gift that you brought us this evening with that altar, for tending it with such care for all of us, for putting your heart into this experience. Though we might be far apart and don't know one another, you've come here tonight and given us something beyond words. Thank you. On behalf of all your people, thank you. And thank you to Phoenix for that beautiful music. Don't let the music stop in the chat. The music is your words. And so if you feel compelled to continue sharing, the music persists as we continue. But thank you, everyone. I think we should take a collective breath together right now, just to release some of the energy that we're holding in our hearts. So on the count of 3, let's just take a deep breath. 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. And in. And out. And in. And out. Now I would like to call back Hannah, Ron, and Leon to lead us forth as we extinguish our candles. Each of them will read this blessing one time, and we are invited to read it with them. And then at the count of 3 thereafter, collectively, we can extinguish our candles. And if you do not have a candle to extinguish this evening, or you want to keep your candle lit, feel free to just breathe with all of us as we extinguish our candles.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
Now on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. So thank you, everybody, for being with us, co-creating this with us. It's been an amazing journey this evening. And the question we want to just move toward right now is just what's next? And we have a couple things we'd like to share with this community. Coming up in just a week, we're announcing this evening. We're trying something we have not done, and we want to invite you to participate with us, or at least 10 of you. Because the question is, we want to hold space for our pain, which we're doing tonight. And ultimately, at some point when we feel called, we want to be able to transmute and channel that pain in some direction, just like Hannah was describing. And so we are facilitating a 4-session journey using a new platform that we're building. to take you on this journey of collective pain into acts of love. If you want to channel your pain into acts of love, and you're available on these days, beginning next Wednesday, the following Wednesday, January 3rd and January 10th, we have a short application we're going to post in the chat, and we're going to then share via email. And we want to really begin modeling as a community and learning. We've done so much holding of space during this last number of years in these vigils, and we want to keep doing that. We're going to keep doing that, are committed with all of this community to holding space. But we want to explore, how do we actually live fully in ways that heal ourselves and heal the world? And we want to create pathways for that to take place. So we're inviting you into that with us. And as part of that, we've been building a new platform, a growth journey platform, to transform grief into growth and adversity into action. And we're needing your help to co-create it with us, to learn and consider with us how, in this world of 24/7 media, when we consume things that are hurting our brains, how do we treat our brains with love and care, and how do we develop a different way? And so we're creating that together with all of you, and we want to invite the first 10 of you to try that with us and fill out the application form. And even if you're not available those dates, if you're interested in something like this, please let us know via filling out the very beginning of this form, and we'll get back to you with how we might all co-create these pathways into transmuting our collective pain into acts of love, or whatever pain that we're feeling into some kind of channel that is healthy and expansive. Now, I'm going to skip this video, but this is Mazen, who sent in a little video for us. We'll share that out as well. He's going to be facilitating the course. He wasn't able to make it this evening, but he's in Egypt right now, and he's an incredible facilitator around issues of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And he's going to be holding space for us in those 4 sessions using that platform that I just briefly highlighted for you to come join. And so he sends his love and is excited to meet you if you haven't met him yet before in this community. And how do I skip this slide? Let's see.
Hey everyone.
I don't know how.
Mazen Jamal here.
1 sec.
Long time.
Get to the end. All right. So it's free, by the way. So it's a pay what you can donation. So please fill that form out, even if you can't make those sessions. Then Andy, could you share just a second about this next vigil? Because these vigils continue and persist.
We have vigils on the first Wednesday of every month generally. And this one we have 2 special guests, Suzanne Finnemore, an author of a new book about her mother's dementia, along with Dr. Soo-Yeon Pak, who has been a guest with Reimagine before. She's a professor at Union Theological Seminary, also an editor of a book on caregiving, and she herself also had a mother with dementia. Please join us for that on December 6th.
And tonight, I want to just, again, share my deepest gratitude for 100+ co-hosts who are leaders in the grief community, leaders in the community of people, not just about grief, but in the life community, which we're all a part of. How do we live this life fully and integrate all that it comes with into our hearts, into our lives in ways that we can heal through and heal together and create something different that we have not seen before, because that's the only way we're going to get through this. And when I say this, I mean just this life that we're all living together. So thank you to all of you co-hosts. We're going to be sending out a booklet with all those poems, with a list of all the co-hosts, with ways to follow them, to get involved. Each of them is doing such incredible work, and without them, this community would not exist. So thank you so much to tonight's co-hosts, which, as you're seeing here, cannot just fit in one screen. 2 screens of co-hosts, and we invite you to explore them all. And we hope to do something like this, who knows, again, because that poem, just the feeling of camaraderie that I'm sensing just through this experience, though I'm feeling myself talking, I really feel the energy from everybody in this space. A couple other things. If you want to host a vigil with us, we started volunteering to offer things like this to other communities. And if you want to be trained, if you want to learn how, if you want to host your own, reach out to hello@Let's Reimagine and just say, help me host a vigil. And we'll try to figure out how we can support you in developing spaces for your own community's collective pain. we've been trying this, and some communities have reached out, and now we're providing some support so they can host their own vigils, like something like today, with its own twist for your community. So the more spaces we can co-create like this in the world, the better. And so it's all of our task to do so. And with that comes another request. Anyone is invited to host an event with Reimagine. The reason those co-hosts, all of you, are here is because you've participated as a host in some form or fashion using our website to host an event. And thank you so much, because we want to support your spaces. We want to bring spaces together, co-create, lift all of our boats. We want to learn how to be better as an organization, and we need your help. We're going to be sending out a survey to our co-hosts to learn how we can support you, and we can support one another, really. What can we do collectively? So one way is to host an event. So just go to letsreimagine.org/hosting, and you can host your own experience. We've hosted over 3,500 on our site because of the incredible co-hosts like yourselves. And then it says stay tuned for breakouts. Now I'm just going to turn that off right now, because we've all been here. It's already 15 minutes over the time that we said we would be here, and you've all sat through this part. The breakout is life. That is the breakout we're all about to head to. We're going to leave this space, and we're going to go break out into life, and we're going to go talk to people in our own communities, and we're going to bear our words that we learned from this experience together, that it's possible for some people, even online, even when not speaking, to create something of value for our world and our planet just by being together online. Rabbi Ron just saying community is for community. And today we have created some community in a way that centers love in our hearts, and that is very special. I want to bring back Corey Kennard, our board chair, to maybe offer a last kind of closing with all of us. If there's anything you'd like to share, Corey.
There's an African proverb that says, when all has been said and done, there's no need to extend the meeting. So I would just simply say these words from Helen Keller, really based upon the poem that we heard. And Helen Keller said really these simple words, that alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And I just want to leave us with that. Namaste.
Namaste, Corey. And everyone, this is how we'll end tonight, as we've done so many times in the past, to make sure everyone's voice gets heard in the space. There is only one word that sounds good collectively when sung, when shared over in a repetitive fashion. It doesn't matter, we sing happy birthday on Zoom, it sounds horrible. We try it every birthday for one of our colleagues, it doesn't work. Oh, speaking of my colleagues, I just have to take 1 second before we end this evening, just to acknowledge once again the incredible staff of Reimagine, our small but mighty team, without whom this would not be possible. Dara, Zubin, Misha, Chris, Nicole, Trina, Andy, oh my word. Thank you all for stepping up into this community and really supporting it. There's a lot of logistics to go into a 52-line poem and holding the space, and to inviting these and finding these incredible guests and building this community. And we are only doing it because of people out there you are supporting us with your donations to make these events free and accessible. Our vision at Reimagine, and I know we all share this together, is can we ensure that everyone has access to community support that is free and available in this world through loss, through adversity, and in facing mortality. We all need support. We all need to be together in whatever form that might take. And so we need all of your support and all of your work in the world to make that a reality. That's the breakout room that we're responsible for. And so with that, the word I was going to say, the word is love. If we all now unmute ourselves simultaneously, we're going to give you all that power on mute. And this is our one breakout room moment. And we're just going to sing the word love as long and as loud as we can. And let's just hear what that sounds like. And then from there, we'll go off on our own way, knowing that tonight we had an experience at this gathering of grief. Ready? I already hear it happening. 3, 2, 1.
Love. love, 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 love.